All right, welcome again to another exciting episode of the Crotchety Old Men podcast. Hey man, what a beautiful day it is today. Joining me there, of course, George Cromley, my main man. What's going on, George?
Hey man, it's light outside. We're on this daylight saving times, and I'm just trying to get my motor running. That's what I'll say it like that.
Yeah, that's an oxymoron when they talk about daylight saving time.
Right.
Because we both know there is no time bank, so there's no saving of time.
We ain't saving nothing. You're right.
Shoot. Well, look here, man, without any further ado, man, why don't you go ahead and kick us off, introduce our guests, and let's get started.
All right. Well, every guest we have is special, but today we've got another special guest. And I've known Marcus for a long time and wanted to have him on because he has a very interesting story. Marcus is the owner and operator of FWT Logistics. And when you hear that, I don't know if everybody in our audience really understands, how important logistics is, and how important is it to getting things to the stores and getting things to each and every consumer. And Marcus has really taken a leap of faith, and I thought it would be really good for him to tell his story. So without any further ado, Marqus Coleman, welcome.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me.
So one of the other things I want to say is thank you for your service. I think that, there's something we can't overlook, especially a black man serving in our military. To me is very important. So I want to make sure I get that out the way. Thank you for your service.
Appreciate that. But we got an opportunity to volunteer, and I will say that it's one of the best things that I've done in my career as far as that is concerned. I think the lessons that you learn in that environment carry through in a lot of what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Now, you've been working in the logistics field for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And you were working with a company, very successful executive, and some things happened. So I just kind of want you to go through that and tell our audience, how that occurred and, where that put you in as far as, exercising your faith and getting to where you are today.
Yeah, well, as you said, George, I've been in and around the industry for the last 23, going on 24 years, and worked my way from the bottom to the top, literally, from driving a forklift and driving a truck to the C-suite. And as of last year, was working for a company that was the largest operator, logistics provider in Northern California, as well as operating in the PNW and in Savannah, Georgia. And due to the, market conditions and economic downturn in the industry, slowly watched that company go from leading to closing. And we closed within probably about 28 months of when the market started to change. Pretty significant for the Oakland market, especially being that we employed the most drayage driver pool in Northern California. Just to give you in terms of scale, we would move anywhere from 75 to 95,000 containers from the port to either a client's distribution center and or one of our warehouses. But that's the amount of product that we were contracted and responsible for, and the amount of clients that we were contracted with in terms of volume and scale. And when you look at July 10th, which is etched in my mind, is the day that we closed. And a lot of people didn't get notice. We shut our doors immediately. We had to within 24 hours. We basically ran out of money. And from that day forward, my life has been different. And I initially, when we had our meeting at 10 o'clock that morning, was thinking, okay, I'll just go and get me another job and the C-suite and pick up where I left off. And I was already in conversations within an hour after we shut down. I think I had 7 offers that same day to go back into more of a corporate role. And that Friday morning, that was Thursday, that Friday morning, I got my first call to say, hey, do you want to do something on your own? And at that point, I wasn't considering it. And I said, no, I'm not sure. And I had a couple more interviews that I wanted to get through. And Saturday, the call came again. And I said, well, this must be God calling me, because this is two strangers in 24 hours calling and asking if I want to venture out on my own. And ultimately decided yes, within 4 hours, within another phone call around with the same individual who was trying to connect the dots. And 9 days later, my company was open. And within 6 months of us opening, so September 3rd is really our born date, because that's the date that our MC number becomes active. So there's all these things that you need to be successful in the industry to even operate. And September 3rd was kind of our born date. And by January, I was signing the lease on my second location in Southern California, and potentially could be signing my third here in the next 2 weeks.
That's quite an interesting introduction. So to be in this space of transportation, I look at it from the top-down approach, from an industry specific perspective, logistics. Could you share with us and our audience exactly what your day-to-day looks like as a CEO of a logistics company? I mean, what does that entail in terms of, contracts, customers, things of that nature? How intense is it? And give us a little bit more insight into that.
I think it's first and foremost, my day is starting with me. I do a lot of self-investment. So that usually, we laugh and joke, but it comes in a term around 3:15 in the morning is where that investment has to start, because you got to get yourself mentally prepared for what you're walking into. But initially it's Bloomberg, it's all the news outlets are on the television in the office. I'm trying to understand what's going on with the macroeconomics of the world. You look at something like the Iranian war has a direct impact on our industry, has a direct impact on the consumer experience in America. When you look at the oil price, from the oil prices rising to when ships are starting to get cut off, companies, steamship line companies are already saying they're not taking any bookings towards the Middle East at all. And so that's going to impact everyone's supply chain. So it usually starts with the macroeconomics of the world, most importantly. And then you get into, what am I forecasting this week or this day versus what I'm actually doing. And so you're looking at all the business you have acquired and what comes with that. And are you providing the service that you said you were? And are you prepared to provide the service that you said you were? But the majority of my day is selling. It's always about selling. You never want to get comfortable in this industry. There's a few different type of contracts that you run into in our industry. So when you look at a drayage contract or a transportation contract, and so drayage looks at, I'm picking up said container from the port, it's from this port of entry, and I'm delivering it to this destination. Regardless of client, whether it's the largest BCOs, what we call BCOs, so Target, Walmart's, Home Depots, when you look at those to some of the smaller clients that do building materials and different things, those contracts are year to year. And so every year those contracts come up for bid. It's just part of the cycle. Most of the times they may take an incumbent, but in most cases you are always competing for that business from one year to the next. And then on the other side of the business is contract logistics. And so that's the warehousing contracts. Those usually come in a term of a 3 to 5 year commitment because you're an integral part of a client's supply chain. And so those don't change that often, because when the freight is moving through your facility and then moving into their network, there's a integration that happens, technological integration. And so when you sign a contract, that is a commitment of, we're going to integrate our resources to ultimately support this client's customer base.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. What would you say the margins are for logistics companies such as yours?
It's hard to say. If I can give I wouldn't say it's hard to say. You just kind of very protective of what those things are. But I would say that contract logistics is a healthier line of business.
Okay.
It's a riskier business because you are outlaying a lease underneath that. And so you're committing to said lease payments for 36, 40 months, 72 months. It all depends. And then whatever the market is, right? The closer you are to a port, the more expensive the property is, but also the more valuable you are to your client base. The further you are away, the cheaper it is, but now you start to see you're less desired depending on where you are.
Right. Okay, I get. Okay, so from an operational perspective, then is probably like most businesses. Well, I shouldn't say most business. Let's not put a blanket over that. But from an operational perspective, it's always about controlling costs, whether they're fixed or variable costs that's involved. Okay, and then you build from there, right?
Right. Now on the drayage side, when you talk about profit margins, companies are doing a lot of offshoring.
Okay.
And so you're starting to see those margins try to pick up. And then there's this thing between if you're working with independent operators versus if you have assets. Mm-hmm. And that presents some different profit margins depending on which direction you go. Asset meaning that these are my drivers, these are my trucks. And that gives me a unique ability where I can run 24 hours a day and I'm not negotiating with the trucking market. When I'm working with IOOs, which means that I'm hiring people who own their own trucks that just operate under my authority, there is a negotiation that tends to happen of how much that driver may want to do that run from point A to point B.
Got it. Okay. All right. Man, this is interesting. I want to delve down deep and be a little tepid because I know you don't want to disclose too many secrets and nuances of your business. However, I think in terms of scaling, and so what is your strategy in terms of, obviously you're looking to the future and you're planning, and like we tell our audience, you got to think beyond the weekend. You got to think in terms of decades and things of that nature. So with that being said, Marqus, I'm sorry.
You're right. Smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, from an operational perspective, where do you see your opportunities of scaling your business?
It's interesting because, being in this business, I've been on both sides, right? I worked for a company where I traveled around the country and we had 30 plus buildings around the country. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that work. I've also been on the side of where we're heavy trucking, and I've seen that work. But I've also seen both of those not work, right? And for me, it's really looking at the business as just like you would look at a stock portfolio.
Okay.
I don't want to be heavily weighted in one direction. Mm-hmm. And so I have certain thresholds in my head as far as how much trucking, how much warehousing, how much domestic trucking. I even do box trucks. So I also do box trucks here, which is a little bit different than most 3PL companies. And so I'm very diversified in that. In addition to, I'm also doing some things that you wouldn't think. Like I have a program here where we deal a lot with agriculture, and it may be adding things to it before it exports out of the country to keep the product fresh during transit or different things like that. So I've looked at this thing over my years of experience and said, hey, I don't want to get too far swayed in one direction or another. I just want 20% of this, 30% of this, 10% of this. Because when international is down, domestic is up. When domestic is down, international is up. And so you want to be able to have that balance sheet, as you know, right? You want those P&Ls to line up.
Yes, absolutely.
And you want to win 9 out of the 12 months of the year to come out profitable. If you start getting 7 out of 5, it's we start looking at where can we reduce, and so in addition to with the people, I have to be careful. I'm very committed to my staff. I want this to be a place where people love to work. I want to pay well, but it be as lean as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to definitely be careful about hiring dynamic people that can do multiple things. And there's a development process that happens within my organization. And our mantra is excellence is the only option. And the reason why that is I'm not asking you to be perfect, but I'm asking you to bring your best. And you have to bring your best every day. And I don't compromise that in any capacity.
Yeah, I'm glad he's opening up a little bit because he's very modest, of course, because what I've seen, Marqus has a unique business perspective on things, being able to see things in the future and how things will develop. And he's also sharing a lot of this stuff. He has a program. I'll let him talk about this program. And whereas he's recruiting, a lot of our athletes into getting it, because I don't know if people are really grasping from this conversation. This is a very unique business. It's really for a Black man to be in. This is a space that we don't normally get in. So, when I say modest, because of the fact that, on a day-to-day basis, he's selling himself. I mean, he's basically selling the fact that he can deliver, being a new company, in competition with companies that have been out there for years, because he even threw out some names of some of the companies that he's working with. So, how important that is, getting these things to market. So, Marqus, talk a little bit about, how you're expanding as far as the reach of getting other, athletes involved and, things like that.
Yeah, I want to touch on something you said. And for clarity, I am the only Black-owned logistics company in Northern California.
Okay.
And people would look at that and say, oh, man, that's excellent. And I look at that and go, no, it's really sad. Because there should be more diversity in the space. And what I find is that folks get trucks and they're like, oh, I'm in the business. And I'm like, no, you got to keep going, because the economics, when you keep going in the economics, when you start to build relationships and play in these spaces, are different. And maybe once we, get off of here and I can share a little bit more about the economic piece, the opportunities, we want to be a part of those, but it takes a collective mission for us to all be involved. And so going back to George's question, that's really where I'm at, is trying to build this collective of people from various backgrounds. I want to, start teaching the youth. I speak at several things as far as the logistics colleges that are local. I'm trying to start an initiative for the students of Oakland to get involved in the maritime industry, and want to invite them into my space. So I have my lobby area is really huge, and I'm already setting up this kind of community engagement where I want to bring folks in and let them look behind the curtain and say, hey, I was you. I grew up in East Oakland. I grew up down the street. I went to this high school 4 miles from here, and I'm now at this place, and you can be too.
Right.
One of the things about this industry that's so interesting is that, the educational barrier is not there. So you can come into this industry and be successful without all of the letters behind your name. As long as you have enough intestinal fortitude. Now, that funnel gets real small, but I'm not saying education isn't important, but what I'm saying is you can get in this industry and make a decent living.
Yeah.
Education is not the path you so choose. You may not own a company, but the industry pays well, for the roles that it has. And as far as the athletes are concerned, I'm fortunate enough I get to rub elbows with a lot of athletes who have played at the highest level, what I call the 1%ers. And I was just down in Long Beach with one of those guys, very well-known guy, and we were at the largest Trans-Pacific Maritime Conference in the world, which is in Long Beach every year, and walking around and talking to him and introducing him to different people, and he's introducing me to different people, but even opening up his eyes to kind of the macro environment. And then I'll get an opportunity at the end of March to get down and go to the Pro Athlete Community Flagship event down in Arizona, which is comprised of, I think it's going to be maybe 500 to 1,000 former professional athletes. And I'll get an opportunity to introduce myself and network and do different things in that space.
Excellent. Man, that's so good to hear that. I mean, you're speaking, you're preaching to the choir, but you're really speaking the truth in terms of helping others. I love to hear that from entrepreneurs, and especially, those of us who make those major decisions. You're a decision maker, and a lot of times you don't have all the information that's needed or necessary in some people's minds to make those decisions. Mm-hmm. But the decisions you make on a daily basis affect not only you, but the outcomes and lives of others. And I can tell by your delivery and your commitment to excellence that you take that responsibility very seriously.
Yeah.
And I like what you said in terms about excellence not being an option. I have similar sayings: either excellence or nothing at all.
Right. Right.
And so, surrounding yourself with A players certainly makes that effort somewhat easier. I use easy in a colloquial sense because there's nothing easy about running or owning a company. Okay, it takes dedication and certainly a lot of perspiration and prayer and all that goes into it. So I already know without asking, you got to be a man of faith because you stepped out on faith.
Yeah.
So, and you kind of hit up on, and telling the audience and stuff about the opportunities in the maritime industry and things of that nature. What has been your biggest challenge in reaching some of your goals in terms, and with this, staying within this particular, vein here, what do you see has been some of your biggest challenges? And then I'd like you to share some of your biggest successes.
Okay. I think the first challenge I had to overcome was myself.
Okay.
The man in the mirror, and it's you versus you every day.
Yes.
And I ask people people say, oh, you're an entrepreneur. And, I got my hands in quite a few things. And I ask them all the time, I said, do you have the stomach for this? Because entrepreneurship is,
say it again, will you please? For the people in the back.
Yeah. Woo, do you have the stomach for it? Because it is, I love, Andre 3000, if you don't move your feet, we don't eat. And that is some of the realest
That's right.
ever spoken, because it's you're the engine.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you and I'm going to speak on myself, is I had to separate the emotions from business.
Mm-hmm.
When it's your money.
Oh yeah.
It brings out some emotions in you that you didn't know you had. It's a lot different when you're an employee because it's not your money. And so you don't really, I was always spending conscious. I never was a guy that did a lot, even as an executive. But it's even more so today because I'm counting the pennies.
That's right.
And when I'm balancing the books on a daily basis, and we made this extra run, or we did this, or we did that, or we had to redo something, and you start looking at those dollars stacking up in the wrong direction, it can invoke some emotion. So I have to really take my time, be graceful, understand that no one comes to work to do a bad job, and you have to buy into that. But also in the industry, I think that there are levels, and I am learning every day that there are levels to this. And when you think that you are operating at the highest level, it's you just on the 10th floor, and it's just on your elevator. You don't have those options, and I just went through that over the weekend, where I was in this board program that I'm actually supposed to be coming to Georgia, and we all presented last week, and they sent us an email that said that they dropped all of us because we weren't at the level. Mm. And immediately I said, I looked at my wife and I said, okay, I got to go get more education. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to enroll into an MBA program. Okay. And I've already started doing that to say, okay, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's how I view feedback now, is that it's tuition. Yes. And so I got some free tuition to say I wasn't ready for that. Right. And I got to go get better. And so I think when you look at that, and that's why, Gary, you never hear me say anything about the industry or the market conditions, because it's really you.
That's right.
It ain't got nothing to do. My success and failure is on me. It ain't got nothing to do. There's no barrier you can put in front of me that could stop me. And you know what I mean? There's nothing. And because I've done it, and where I've come from and the struggles that I've had to go through, and when my trauma became my fuel.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? Then there's no barrier for me. There's no, and I've heard Terry Crews say, yeah, I'm black, I'm single mom, I'm there. All this is on the plate. It's already there. It comes with the dinner. So I got plenty of excuses. Mm-hmm. All right, let me take that plate and move it to the side. And now what? You know what I mean? And now, and so I operate in that mindset. So when you talk about my opportunities that I have for myself, those are my opportunities to continue to keep working on myself. Amen. To keep rising to the level, to continue to keep chasing the education, continuing to hold the door open for those behind me. Now, I'm not going to bring you to the door, but I'll be here when you get here. And so continuing to focus on those things is really where my opportunities are.
Amen.
Okay. Successes, man, being a dad, I think that's, you know what I mean? That's what it's all for, that's what it's all for, is to build a legacy for your family. And I can see that. I can see it now starting to come together where it's real. Yeah. And I would say that success for me is being able to see that view, because most of us don't get an opportunity to even see the picture.
Wow.
And so that's what I would say success is.
Amen. No better said, man. I appreciate you, brother. Boy, Marcus. George, I think we got one here.
Oh man, we're not done, are we? I got some more stuff for him. I mean, I'm not ready. I mean, it's real interesting, and I'm really we're getting, like you said, getting more out of this conversation than I thought. But to be honest and open as an individual, to really hit the points, and that's the problem with what I see a lot in the world. Everybody wants an excuse. Everybody wants to blame it on somebody else, and it's always somebody else's fault. To hear this man say, I get it. It's the man in the mirror. If we're going to fix something, I've got to fix it. And and if everybody took that attitude, the world would be different, and they'll tell people, how do we, fix these things? It's one person at a time. Right. It's like this podcast. If we can expose millions, but then one person sees something out of this, then we've done our job, because it's just one person at a time. You're not going to change the masses. But if you can change one person at a time, then you're going to see successes. And Marcus is definitely, showing that, in this conversation, how he approaches life. Because like you said, what's in front of us, we've all come from something, but it's where we're going is what we have control over. Just want to touch briefly, because like I said, I really admire some of the things that he's doing. Kind of just touch on, you've got several other businesses going on, and just talk just briefly about, these other businesses, because I want people to really understand that things are capable. Things, you can get things done. Yes, 24 hours in a day. And if you really apply yourself, there's a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah. So in addition to the logistics company, we're in the vending machine space, janitorial. I also have a mobile bar company. So I do bar catering. And then we also have, my wife has her company, the Red Door, which is production, high-end catering, big-time events. And then we also have a new venture we started called the Impact House. And we just did an event during Super Bowl where we brought Wale to San Francisco and some other artists. And we kind of create the VVIP experience for events. And we were fortunate enough to make it into Forbes magazine. So we got a write-up, and we've got actually about 12 to 15 write-ups, but Forbes was probably the biggest. And about 73.6 million people got access to the event in some capacity, whether it was a publication or videos or what have you. So it's a pretty big accomplishment in terms of reach. So we were pretty proud of that. And that was our first event, non-sponsored, no sponsors. So it was out-of-pocket risk for us. And it turned out to be very positive for me and my partners. And now we're looking forward to see how we can leverage that into the next opportunity.
That's
great, man. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Now you can end it, Smitty.
I wasn't trying to end. I was just saying, I made that statement. We have one of like kind, like mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting here thinking in terms of having the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Not too long ago, I was invited on a panel or what have you, and maybe I was a little more zealous than I normally should be, but I was speaking on the position of having the correct mindset when it comes to being an entrepreneur or owning your own business. A lot of people talk about they want to be their own boss and et cetera, but it takes. This is not for everyone, and Marcus said it so succinctly. I mean, you got to have the stomach for this, and a lot of us, we make sometimes decisions based upon our gut feeling, but you have to have the mindset, the right mindset. And this brother has the correct mindset of developing and encouraging others and building other leaders. He didn't, like he said, I'm not going to get you to the door, but when you get here, I will open the door for you.
Right.
Okay. And the door will be open to you. Brother say you got to open it yourself, but the door will be open to you.
Right.
And so it's evident, the mindset, and what touches my heart and my mind soul so succinctly is that the success in being a good dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because the majority of your time and your headspace is around your business. Okay, you eat and sleep that business. You're constantly thinking when you're walking, and it never shuts off.
Right.
But at the same token, you have to have that control. Whereas what's the most important thing? What is, your value driver? Your value driver is not margins and operations and,
right.
And how much, product you can move or whatever. Your driver is that family.
Mm-hmm.
Your family, man, your kids. And what do kids need more than anything else is your time.
Yeah. And I tell people, when you come to work for me, you're gonna get a few things. One, you got to create what's not in existence.
Yes.
You're going to learn to succeed and fail on your own.
Yes.
And that right there is usually the tipping point.
Yep.
When you put people in position, everybody can have an idea of what it may look like. But when you are succeeding and failing on your own, and you are on that island by yourself on a day-to-day basis, it gets lonely.
That's right.
And the only voice that's really driving you is the one inside of you.
Amen.
And I think it's admirable. But the third thing is, and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, I do feel that the corporate side gives you values that if you have not worked in that hierarchy, hard to scale your business if you don't have the foundational fundamentals of the corporate experience.
Amen.
Because I do think that where entrepreneurs get in trouble is their business can't scale beyond their ability.
Man.
So
Right.
they can't replace themselves. And in corporate America, we are bred to replace ourselves over and over and over again. So development, right? I have this thing, Gary and George, where I say to build something successful, to be mature, it takes 12 to 18 months before it matures.
That's right.
You know, because you're dealing with people, right? When you're dealing with people, right? And if the brain takes 12 hours to learn a new function, and, you know, you start thinking about this behavioral psychology of dealing with people. And so entrepreneurs get challenged because they can't create a development plan, can't create a scale plan, you know, because it's them. And so the business gets stifled because they get exhausted.
Yes.
And they're no longer competing against the industry. They're competing internally against their own business.
Man, I love it. I love it. I don't
Good
even want
stuff.
to eat. Go ahead, George.
Good stuff. No, I'm just saying good stuff, man. It's just
Yes.
it's so inspiring, you know, that to hear this. And like I said, our audience should be able to look at this and say, you know, I can go higher. You know, I just got to push myself. That's all it is. You know, stop letting all these roadblocks, you know, stand in your way. You know, just keep doing it. You know, keep going. You know, like I was telling my son the other day, you got to do something different to get a different result. You can't keep doing the same. If you're doing this, and you're still in the same spot and you're still getting the same result, you got to do something different.
Right.
You know, you got to figure out something different to do. And these are the kind of things that you have to consider when you're trying to do something different in life.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Man.
Smitty. Well, Marcus, you got anything else you want to say before we get out?
No, I appreciate y'all.
Oh, man, we appreciate you.
I feel like I'm just getting started. And, you know, we'll see. I got a 4-year plan, so maybe I'll come back and let you know where I'm at.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Open invitation.
But I do appreciate it. I do learn a lot. And, you know, I listen to you guys a lot because you playing in spaces. I wish I just can't wait to get more education. And so I appreciate the time. And if I can help one, then I've done my job.
There you go.
Man,
there you
that's
go.
it.
There you
That's
go.
how I'm All right. Well, that's
what you got,
it.
Smitty?
I got this. I want you to ask yourself this question tonight. If I did what I did today 365 more times, will I be where I want to be next year?
There you go. There you go. Something to think about. And as we always say on the Thecrotchetyoldmenpodcast Old Man podcast, if you didn't know, now you know. Thanks again. You guys have a great day. Be blessed.
Have a great day. Yes.